Got a lot of comments to do another one of these breakdown videos, and we got a good one for you today. I'm going to be breaking down some of the fight scenes for Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a relatively new show that just came out. I'm super pumped. Let's get into it. The art style of this show is really incredible, even for just a simple shot like this. If we zoom in, you can see these sketchy lines. They almost make it look like it was drawn with a marker. We have some color bleeding out of the lines, and these accents of blue, there's some yellow, there's some red, and even green. They really make it feel like a piece of concept art come to life. A lot of the times nowadays, you'll see these shows keep their designs clean and simple, but ever since, like the Spider-Verse or even Puss in Boots came out, we're starting to see a lot more of this stylized animation. Looking at the shot, this mug looks like it was just a background element. And then probably what happened was the effects team went in afterwards and added these ripples that you see in the coffee. Any liquids, no matter how big or small, usually it's done by effects. Speaking of effects, a lot of the effects in this show seem to share that same sketchy style, right? If we pause it on any frame, it almost looks like it was colored with a pencil crayon. The shots like this are my favorite. It's only the upper body, so we don't really have to worry about where the feet are, how we're planting the feet. We just get to focus on that nice action and some great poses. I'm really loving how they're using smears in this shot. Take a look at this character's hands, right? And when he strikes him here, the hand isn't even fully drawn. Going so fast, we can barely register it as the audience. Even when the turtle spins his sai, I'm guessing they're just a couple of drawing swaps for that prop that the animator could cycle through. So I also like on this fast action scene, there isn't much wind up on the hits, but they still read. So as each hit lands, we hold for a couple of frames on that strong pose. So here's a good example. When he punches here, there's a real nice line of action going through the body, right? This negative space between the characters is also interesting to see. The animators aren't afraid to hold on these strong poses. So this shot, what really stands out here is the footwork of the characters. Now, I love the exaggeration in this pose right here. Take a look how much we're stretching and how big this foot is compared to his back leg. It looks great, and it literally almost acts like an arrow to draw our eye to this foot. We hold this pose for quite a bit of time, just so it's very easy for the audience to register what's about to happen. Setup, his foot goes through, and then right at the end, we sweep the leg. Even though this action is quick, because we held the pose here for so long, it's easy to read. This is actually a really fun shot, the camera pan and the character falling with the camera. Now, there is a way you can connect characters to the camera in Toon Boom. I'm not sure if that's what they did here, but I would probably do something like that if I was doing this scene. When I was watching clips of this show, I noticed they do this effect quite a lot. So there's a big action, and then the characters will become like just a smear like this. No, I've never seen that done before, but I kind of like the effect that it gives. So the impact here is really great. We get a really nice C curve in the body, and then immediately alternate that curve. It takes a real mastery of body mechanics to exaggerate a run like this. This is what I think animation is all about, and where it really shines through as a storytelling medium. Right? Bending the rules, exaggerating those body proportions to get something that you wouldn't necessarily be able to achieve in real life. Foreshortening a whole body like this is probably one of the most difficult things to do as an animator. I think one thing that could help is really not being scared to push that size difference, right? Look at the size of this foot compared to the foot and leg back there. Don't be afraid to go even bigger with it. You can always scale it back after. This is a crazy exaggerated punch. It spans 3 shots, and there's a lot going on here. Here we have this nice line of action running through the body. Again, look how small his arm is back here compared to that arm in the foreground. We're getting a lot of contrast in the size of the shapes. Not to mention, the overall silhouette is really pleasing to look at. We have some nice negative space going on here, and it's creating some very interesting shapes. We have a little anticipation, right? So there's barely any movement, and then we have a nice pop to this pose. And look at the difference in head size in just one frame. Even though the spacing is quite large, we notice the hand is still dragging back, and it's relatively small compared to everything else. We're overlapping that action, and it's creating a lot of power in this punch. Now we cut to the impact shot. We'll notice we hold this punch for like a couple of frames, then we go right into these impact frames before the actual punch hits. These are used a lot in anime, right? So it's just like a crazy, contrasty flash on the screen. We play it at speed. It's hard to register what's going on. You'll see the actual amount of detail in some of these frames is really, really fun, right? It's just really exaggerated stuff that the audience kind of feels instead of sees. Then finally, on our last frame, we really are exaggerating his fist. It's actually buried into his face. So we're pushing that exaggeration. Action lines are going in this direction. So we're drawn right to this point of impact. Even if we look at the negative space here, look, everything is kind of pointing this way. It's pointed in. We barely have any animation in this shot. It's just a couple of still frames, but all those things work together, really make an impactful shot. The next shot, you'll notice the turtles up here are basically just one drawing. They don't move at all. All the attention is on this character flying back. Because the movement is so quick, we can get away with big pops in the character like this. Here, it's not as exaggerated, but we're still getting a nice contrast of those small and large shapes. We got this big shape in the foreground, taking up most of the frame, and then we have our little guy all the way up there. This shot on the surface looks pretty complicated and intimidating, right? There's 3 characters, there's a lot of action going on, there's a camera move, there's a lot going on. But if we start to break it down, there are some things that we can notice. First of all, let's take a look at this guy in the background. So remember, the focus is on this character, so the audience isn't really going to be paying attention to what this guy and this guy are doing as much. If we look, he's almost reusing the same strike every time. I'm guessing the animator just kind of had to do this once and use those poses to kind of cycle through the hits. I mean, even looking at this fish, we can see he stays in this position most of this scene with the head down and in this kind of stance. He's basically just moving his arms right here, until we get to this kick, and then he kind of goes into a bunch of flips. These kind of shortcuts and working smarter, it really helps keep up with your quotas, also keeps your animation at that professional level. And it's kind of the same thing in cutout animation. I'm always on the lookout to reuse a pose, a part of a pose, even a bit of animation. It's just a necessary part of the job that you should definitely start to integrate into your workflow whenever you can. Alright guys, that was a breakdown of some of the fight scenes in Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Super great show. It's definitely refreshing to see some of the creativity come back in an animated show like this. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope this was fun. And yeah, let me know what show you want me to break down in a future video. See you later.